All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another great CFD Aviation and Airport Activities Committee event. I'm always amazed at the advancement in technology, so I'm really looking forward to hearing about flying cargo ships today. I'm Scott York, the Executive Director of the Committee for DOLIS. To give you a little background of the Committee for DOLIS for those attending who may not know much about CFD, the Committee for DOLIS was founded in 1966 and is the oldest member-sponsored organization promoting Dulles Airport. As Dulles Airport continues to expand over the years since 1966, the work of CFD became increasingly more significant. The committee has played an active role in fostering and promoting Dulles as a dynamic as dramatic changes occurred at Dulles. We continue today to focus our energies toward maintaining Dulles Airport as the major economic engine for the region and the Commonwealth. To learn more about the Committee for Dulles, please visit www.committeefordulles.org or contact me. Please note that we are recording this event, which will be posted on YouTube. Also, as time allows, we will have a Q&A session following the presentation by our speaker today. And we would ask as questions come up that you want to ask to please put them into the chat function. I will now turn the meeting over to Georgia Graves, who serves as one of the committee's co-chairs. Georgia has been with CFD for many years now and has served as a past president. Georgia is president and owner of Bridgman Communications. Georgia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Scott, so much. As Scott said, we're very pleased to have our speaker today attending. And I'm going to just say a few words about the committee. The Aviation Airport Activities Group is part of the Committee for Dulles. We provide a vehicle for the Committee for Dulles members to engage in a smaller environment with staff and executives of organizations like the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authorities, representatives from airlines, other business-related organizations and businesses. Our group works to keep the Committee for Dulles up to date on changes that affect the airport, issues that impact passengers, airline service, cargo security, and the like. And we do wonderful tours, such as the Fuel Farm tour, tours at the Varhazy Center special events, A380, and many more. Our committee members are what makes our group successful. We have Logan Antigone, Jim Bonfils, Dick Datos, Brandon Ferris, Dave Kirby, Paige Croner, Howard Lampton, Sheila Ohms, the mayor of Herndon, Marcia Senek, and Sydney Woods. So we're very pleased today to have one of our members introduce our speaker. He is with the Department of Economic Development in Loudoun County. As Business Development Manager, Brandon Ferris is responsible for customer engagement and business recruitment in the highly specialized manufacturing, logistics, and aviation sector. His prior professional experience includes serving in the United States Air Force as an information management journeyman and as a contracting officer. Upon leaving the service, Ferris served as a business development program manager in the small business space. He was responsible for business partnerships, proposal development, capture management, and executive decision-making. Ferris grew up in Philadelphia and has been in Loudoun County for the last 3 years. He possesses a bachelor's degree in management studies and master's degree in acquisition and supply chain management, as well as an MBA, all from the University of Maryland Global Campus. So pleased to have him on the committee, and I'll turn it over to you, Brandon.
All right, thank you, Georgia. I appreciate that. As Georgia said, I'm from the Loudoun County Department of Economic Development, where we are focused on the economic growth, business recruitment, and kind of overall company welfare of businesses here in the county. I've had the pleasure of serving this position for a little over a year now and been a member of the Committee for Dulles for all of that time as well. And really, my job is to make sure that our business owners and partners here in Loudoun County and beyond are satisfied with what they have going on and also are growing in the right way. And Bill Peterson is one of those leaders. Bill is the founder and owner of the CEO, excuse me, of Ground Effect Technology LLC and the Flying Ship Company. By trade, he's an aerospace and defense executive with almost 20 years of experience in the sector. In 2015, Bill established Peterson Corporate Services LLC, which is a scalable team of independent contractors that provide strategic services such as business capture, marketing, branding, government relations, economic development, operational improvement programs, and strategic analysis. Currently, Bill serves as the UK government advises the UK government as their aerospace specialist and serves on advisory boards for aerospace and defense suppliers. Additionally, he is a regular contributor at the George Mason School of Business. Previously, Bill led the Washington, D.C. operations and regional business development for the Aerospace and Defense Division of Plexus Corporation, an electronics engineering and manufacturing supplier. Prior to Plexus, Bill was the Director of Supplier Management and Business Development for the Aerospace Industries Association, where he worked directly with the leadership teams of virtually all major U.S. aerospace and defense firms. Bill began flying Cessna 152s at the age of 14 and has an undergraduate degree in aerospace engineering from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and an MBA from George Mason University, where he completed residencies in Beijing and Shanghai, China, and at Oxford University Said Business School. Without further ado, I introduce to you Bill Peterson.
Thanks, Brandon, and thank you, George and Scott. I really should have given you a shorter resume to read. I didn't realize that you were going to read that. I thought you were going to post it. So I apologize for that, but thank you all and appreciate your time today. I am going to start off with just showing you a 2-minute video. So hopefully Skype or Zoom will allow for us to do this without a hiccup. So that was the video. Now I'll bring some slides into view. Feel free to turn your cameras back on if you'd like. So I'll share more information about our unmanned or uncrewed ground effect cargo vessels that are faster, cheaper, and provide greater access along coastlines around the world. So what is what we call a flying ship? Uncrewed maritime cargo vessel. And you'll hear me say vessel several times rather than vehicle, because these wing and ground effect craft are actually classified by federal regulators as maritime vessels, not aircraft. So the IMO, International Maritime Organization, ICAO, FAA, and Coast Guard have guidelines that describe what these wing and ground effect craft are and how they're classified. They operate along the same operational plane as a boat, so you're worried about them running into maritime traffic, not airspace. So you're not worried about them colliding with aircraft abroad. So that they are classified as boats, or in the same classification or similar classification as say maybe a hovercraft. And I'm going to get into details in a little bit, but we are going to be about a quarter or less of the operating cost of a traditional aircraft, 10 times faster than ships at sea. We've got two variants on the design board right now. One is fully electric, another one is hybrid electric, and I'll show in a little bit how we're going to achieve a 50% carbon emission reduction from comparable aircraft, and we'll also be providing thousands or tens of thousands of additional delivery points for the time-sensitive, price-sensitive logistics market. So what is ground effect? Any pilot on here will know what ground effect is. It's a very well-known phenomenon. And when an aircraft flies close to the ground, so when they're taking off or when they're landing, the pilots describe ground effect as coming down to land on a cushion of air. And there are two factors into this. One is that the airflow is ducted underneath the leading edge of the wing, underneath the wing. It's actually compressed between the wing and the ground, creating almost a high pressure pocket of air underneath the ground, or underneath the aircraft, increasing the lift of the aircraft. And the other component to ground effect is that these wingtip vortices, when you see an aircraft, it almost looks like little tornadoes are coming off the tips of the wings. The wingtip vortices are actually stopped by the ground, reducing drag. So lift is increased, drag is decreased, and overall operational efficiency is gained. Now, these are not necessarily new. Wing and ground effect are not necessarily new types of vehicles. There was a German aerodynamicist by the name of Alexander Lippisch, and he perfected the reverse delta wing back in the 1950s and 60s to design wing and ground effect maritime craft. Then famously, the Soviet Union had a number of what they called chronoplans, these very, very large ground effect vessels. One was called the Caspian Sea Monster by the Americans who spotted it flying over the Caspian Sea. And famously, they were able to achieve, they were so large that one of their chronoplans had greater lift capacity than the 747. So these were not little. These were massive, massive vessels. Nowadays, there are companies in Asia that are developing mostly, they're all crewed ground effect vessels, which is a major difference between theirs and ours. There's also a couple companies still in Russia that are trying to bring a few to market, but it's kind of a forgotten about technology here in the States until now. So who are the customers and what are the markets that we're targeting? How are we actually going to bring this to market and sell these? Well, right now, the logistics market, which is a massive market, greater than a $2 trillion market for vehicles, logistics vehicles, is there are two primary areas or two primary types of logistics transport that I'll call them. So here's a perceptual map, cost versus speed. You see in the top right hand, air freight, obviously, fastest mode of transportation, very fast, but very expensive to ship goods from one place to another. Along, and I'll just say along coastlines or from coastline or across coast or across waterways, excuse me. So the other group of logistics vehicles are on the bottom left hand, less expensive. So you've got freight on boats, you've got trucks and rail. They're all less expensive, but they're very slow comparatively. So for these, on the right hand side, you can see several types of examples of time critical, price sensitive goods that need to get from point A to point B quickly, and it would, they really don't, there's a need to lower the price quite a bit. So this is the market that we're targeting, this time critical, price sensitive market that lies right in the middle here. So are there customers out there? Absolutely, right? So across the top, we see different, I guess, sectors that could utilize flying ships, uncrewed cargo logistics vessels. So, of course, the commercial logistics market, there are many major players. You could point to UPS, FedEx, Amazon, so on and so forth. Huge, massive market, and just a growing need for that, again, time critical, price sensitive delivery to what are essentially the wealthiest, most densely populated regions around the world, which are the coastlines. And then there's obviously a huge potential to use flying ships in the disaster recovery and humanitarian market. So, look at, for example, hurricanes in the Bahamas or in Southeast Asia, being able to deliver food and medicine quickly and inexpensively to folks in those regions. Military is always looking to enhance readiness and trying to stretch their budget, do more with less. So there's a huge market there. And then, of course, we don't have to limit this to logistics. There are multiple special operations missions that we could support with this sort of new, what has been described as an entirely new species of vehicle. And the destination locations will be seaports. Really, for these large or smaller, we've got I'll show you the scale of the vessels that we're designing in a few slides here. But for the smaller versions, we're really going to be targeting the secondary or smaller seaports, not necessarily the large ports at this time. And of course, we could be delivering to ships at sea, oil rigs, beaches, and boat ramps will all be delivery destinations and ports, which greatly broadens the number of points of delivery along coastlines. So right now we've got two designs on the table that we're developing, what we call an intra-island and a regional design. The range of the intra-island design is about 500 nautical miles. So think about maybe the Greek islands or going out to the Bahamas and delivering around these regions. And it'll be an all-electric version, about 32 feet and being able to carry about just over a ton, 2,500 pounds. So we're moving rapidly towards commercialization. Then we've got a regional model that that Aviation Week just wrote about with a range of 1,000 miles, payload of about 6,000 pounds, about 3 tons, and 52-foot vessel. And initially it will be hybrid electric, but we're also assessing hydrogen fuel cell and some other types of green technologies that we can integrate quickly, more quickly than, for example, our aviation counterparts, because we are not classified as an aircraft. We're classified as a maritime vessel, and so we don't have to go through the more stringent FAA certifications for our systems on board our vessels. Here's some of the cost-saving components. This is why, I tout a quarter of the operating cost of comparable aircraft. These are a few of the major ones. Of course, lower fuel costs. As I mentioned, the lift over drag component will be greatly enhanced for our vessels. So we've got that, and plus, just maritime fuel is a lot less expensive than aviation fuel. So 50% reduction in fuel cost, lower sustainment cost. I mentioned that we don't have to use FAA certified systems on board. When you look at the major systems, of course, we'll be borrowing from the aviation world, from the urban air mobility world, from the UAS, UAV systems that are all being developed and all being matured over time. We can directly integrate those into our system, but we can also utilize a number of commercial off-the-shelf systems and subsystems. You look at the propulsion systems on an aircraft. If you take a Cessna 172, look at the cost of an engine in that versus even a Corvette engine or another type of even a lower performing engine. The Cessna 172 engine is 10 times the cost of a comparable automotive engine. 10 times the cost. So some of our systems will come from the automotive world, some will come from the maritime world, some will come from the aviation world, and we can select based on performance and cost. Of course, having no crew on board directly, you can see the direct cost of not having a pilot or operators on board, but there are also a number of indirect costs associated with having human beings in an aircraft. Think about not having to design with windows in mind. You don't have to have a cockpit. You don't have to have emergency escape systems. You can essentially, and you don't even have to have environmental controls, right? Because there are cargo systems and pallets that do a lot of that themselves. So when you start to strip out all of the unnecessary systems and subsystems on board, not only are you reducing costs and saving volume, right, direct volume, but it's also you're saving weight as well. So we're able to increase asset utilization. So both with the internal structure, replace what those other systems took up in volume and weight. We can replace them with cargo, but we can also have faster turnaround times without having humans on board, and with using more of a maritime maintenance schedule. So you start tabulating, these are just some of the cost drivers. You start tabulating all of the efficiency gains, and we're coming down below a quarter of the operating cost of comparable aircraft. So for one comparable aircraft, you can get 4 flying ships. That's a very, very strong value proposition. I'll go through some of the cases that we can utilize flying ships. So of course, the 95 corridor, we all are very familiar with this here on the East Coast. A lot of congestion, and really there's 2 or 3 primary modes that you would use to ship goods, say, from New York to Miami in this example. Air freight, right? Again, very, very fast. One day you can have that freight leave your building, go through security at an airport, get on board the aircraft and do the same thing, drop it off at the airport and have and then receive your goods at the end of that one day. Or you could use trucks, trains, or you could use an unmanned ground effect cargo vessel to get from New York to Miami. And this shows the range with our 6,000 pound hybrid electric version. So I've got a few other examples on here. Now, of course, we've got CO2 emissions on here with the all electric version. We're not going to have to consider CO2 emissions. But think about, here's a real world example, right? With the storms that just impacted Texas. I'm trying to deliver emergency supplies, food, rations, what have you, from Florida to Texas, and we could do it in a day. We can do it in a day, and with costing less money than it would an aircraft. The Caribbean islands, here's an example with Puerto Rico. You have two options: a boat that takes very, very long, or an aircraft. But the Bahamas notoriously have a very challenging time getting Amazon packages and Amazon deliveries to the islands, because it doesn't make sense in terms of cost trying to ship goods out there. A lot of times the Bahamians will fly into Florida and load themselves up with retail and then fly back out. So we're talking about dramatically lowering the price point and increasing the number of access points for these regions, which could really improve the lives of people in regions like this that don't have access right now, and open up new trade routes. So that's our goal. Of course, the largest potential market is in Southeast Asia. Dense populations along coastlines, with all of the islands out in Southeast Asia, and the need for delivering in their GDP per capita is still rising, right? So people are demanding more price sensitive, time sensitive goods. So this opens up new opportunities for these folks. And I could mention a number of other areas, of course, the Mediterranean, going from North Africa to points along Europe. You could look at the Middle East, Australia, North Europe. There are regions all over the world that can utilize these price sensitive, time sensitive services. This is the final slide. It's a very basic revenue projection slide. Obviously, there's a lot of sensitivity around some of this information, but we're about to close out on our first round, major round of investment, and we're moving ahead. There's been quite a lot of buzz recently about our company. Aviation Week has recently published an article. CNN put up an article on their website about us. We just hit 1 million YouTube views, and we've developed partnerships with some of the best aerospace and maritime design and manufacturing firms, and we just look forward to continuing the momentum. So I think that was it. With that in mind, I just want to say thank you all. Thank you, Scott, so much for reaching out and allowing me to present this this overview of our company and our product. And I'd like to answer any questions that your audience may have.
All right, excellent, Bill. I appreciate it. And if you'll get out a share screen here shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, please feel free to enter them with chat. And while we're waiting, Bill, question I have, you gave the capacity of the first two sizes of the vessels in terms of weight. What is the cubic footage capacity of your vessels?
I'd have to pull up my calculator, but with the larger version that I described, we're looking at 3 IATA LD3 containers, and they have it's a standard palletized container, and we're actually talking. We're partnering with one of the with the largest cargo systems company in America, and we are designing the smaller one around specific needs. So we actually don't have the volume scoped out for the smaller one, but we have the volume scoped out for the larger one.
All right. We have a question from Logan Antigone. It says, maybe he missed it, but what size waves can these vessels handle? How many days per year would travel be canceled because of weather?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question, and I actually considered putting that slide in here, but I opted not to do that. So right now we're targeting 2 meters, so about 6 to 7 foot wave height for the smaller version, and we're aiming towards with a slightly larger version. We're aiming towards a 3 meter wave height. Now, we're obviously going to have operational limitations. I mean, as do all smaller mid-sized aircraft, right? There's no vehicle out there that can operate in every single kind of condition, and the amount of the frequency in which we will be not able to fly is directly related to where in the world we are. Because if you look in like the North Pacific, it's the waves and the sea is very, very rough. But in the Bahamas and in that region, typically the waves are much, much calmer. So we can operate much more frequently in those sea states down in the Bahamas and in Southeast Asia.
Okay. And Georgia asked, how high does the vessel ascend?
Oh, within one wingspan length. So with the smaller one, we're looking at around it's 25 to 30 feet, and then the larger one, it's 40 feet. And then, of course, we've got larger designs on the drawing boards, because now we want to go, what we call intra-island regional, which is where the maps that I was showing you just now. And then we've got a couple, further down the line, we can go with a bigger cargo and a bigger range.
Okay. What is your, this is from Keith Merlin. What is your target date to start service? Wherein is your primary target customer?
Yeah, so that is going to be a function of funding, right? In an ideal world, we'll be ready for market in 3 years with our first variant, our smallest one, and that is what we are targeting, and we're operating under that assumption. Now, in the world of raising capital, it doesn't always work that seamlessly. So don't hold me to that, please.
All right. From Kristen Long, we have, are these vessels remotely operated or fully autonomous? And I will add to that, how do they get from point A to point B?
Yeah, so we're going to go remote operations to semi-autonomous to fully autonomous, just like the Tesla model. Yeah.
And okay. And Keith Merlin then has another, he says, there have been issues with TFR in coastal areas. How have you mitigated those issues?
TFR, what does that stand for?
Keith, you want to jump on?
Thank you. And Bill, great talk. I was curious, terrain following radar. I mean, I'm assuming that's what you're using on your aircraft or your ship to get across, and the way you showed in the animation, climbing over waves and that. When you get an area, if you're flying low level and using TFR to do it, to avoid obstacles, when you get to a coastline that has sort of not a steep grade down, but a shallower grade, which is more common in the Far East, you can in some of the older PFR units, and I'm really not sure if how much they've corrected that, it can lock onto the surface and penetrate the water and actually follow the surface down. So that's why I was just curious how you've handled that in the different environments you're going to be in.
Yeah, Keith, and some of these we're actually we're doing some trade studies with the design firm that we've partnered with, trying to assess, because there are a lot of new things being developed right now, as you can imagine. With even new types of LiDAR and things of that nature. So I don't have an answer for you with that, and I'm not the radar specialist on our team. We actually have a radar specialist, and but if you have some guidance or some recommendations or some more in-depth questions, happy to have an offline conversation with you.
All right. Let's see. When do you think production will begin? That's from Georgia. Graves.
Yeah, so we're hoping for, in an ideal world again, we've got a prototype. We'll be prototyping in year 2 and in year 3, somewhere in year 3, we'll be doing commercialization and start ramping up for production.
Okay. You're headquartered in Leesburg. Once you start production, where will these vessels be produced?
We're talking to a number of locations at the moment right now.
Okay. All right. But you'll remain headquartered in Leesburg?
Probably. Yeah, I'm thinking that's going to be the case.
I'm a former political nut from Loudoun County, so my interest has always leaned towards Loudoun County. So anything you can do to stay in Loudoun County would be great.
It's a great location, and I love the location.
Let's see, from Logan Antigone, how much of what you are doing, if any, will be patented? Will there be value in those patents to other production or industries?
Yep, we've got a utility patent filed, and we've got a patent roadmap. We've got a number of other patents in the hopper at the moment.
Okay. And Georgia asks, has Amazon contacted you, or have you contacted Amazon?
No, we find with a lot of the larger companies, you initiate a discussion and they say, oh, that is fantastic. That will be great for us. Let's see it built and commercialized, and then we'll have a more in-depth conversation. In fact, it's just easier to partner with some of the smaller organizations out there. So, but yeah, we would certainly love that endorsement or that initial customer voice of the customer from Amazon.
Another question that I have that came up when you showed your slide comparing the cost of the various types of shipping apparatuses. On your shorter range, you showed having to go to port in Georgia somewhere to continue on to Miami, I assuming to recharge the vessel itself. So how will you set up the infrastructure along the coastline in order for your vessels to be recharged to continue on?
Yeah, and that was actually for the longer range version, Scott. So we are using maritime fuel. That's a hybrid electric fuel system, and it utilizes maritime fuel. So you could go up to a port and fuel directly at a port. The logistics for the charging logistics for the smallest version are still being assessed at the moment to determine that. But that is certainly something that we are working on at the moment.
But will that require you to have somebody as operator in every port to be able to do what is needed to be done to refuel the vessel?
Well, so yeah, there's with both versions. So you've got the intra-island one that would be more going back and forth between the Bohemian Islands. So yeah, you would need to be able to fill up, and just like filling up a boat when you go into port, yeah, you'll need somebody to be able to put gas in the vessel.
Okay. No, I was just curious, if you don't have a man or woman flying the thing, you don't have any personnel directly with it. So I was just curious what your arrangement is in order to refuel.
Yeah, we'll need people, at least initially, we'll need people in multiple parts of the journey, and, you know, navigating in and out of port, and then also being able to operate from point A to point B.
Okay. And a question in from Howard Landsat. Have you contacted Uber Freight, a new delivery system with them started around 2 years ago?
Yeah, we were actually partnered with another logistics company at the moment. It's not going to preclude us from working with Uber Freight, but we're partnering with LogistiWorks, which is another similar type of company that is using more groundbreaking technologies. Uber Freight is definitely something that we're exploring at the moment, and some of these large organizations like Uber and Amazon, they're contacted on a daily basis by 100 different companies, so it's hard to get through the noise. And we're starting to break through that, and we know that the path forward to do that is just to continue on and to develop the technology.
And Logan Antigone asks, what or who is your competition other than planes, trains, trucks, and boats?
Yeah, well, those are the competition, and then of course you've got the UAM or UAV market that will be coming out, but will still be lower cost than the UAV market, because we're operating within ground effect and we are not an aircraft, so we do not have to use FAA certified components, and they will. So those still will continue to be complements and competitors.
Okay. Christian Long asks, even though this is classified as a vessel, are there any FAA requirements for the vessel?
No. Well, so just as there are no FAA requirements for a hovercraft or a boat, as long as we do not operate within FAA airspace, and we are not, and we remain under the guidelines that classify us as a wing and ground effect craft, we do not run into the FAA.
Very good. That is the end of the questions. Bill, I personally want to thank you for being with us this afternoon. This is a very interesting, very intriguing. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Georgia.
I just want to thank Bill as well, and thank everyone that attended, and please stay in touch with us and let us know how we can be of service. You have a lot of key players in the airport community on this call, and we have access to, and we're here to be of support, and look forward to having you join us when the time is right. Thank you so much, Bill, and thank everyone for attending today. And we'll be sending out notice on our next event coming up soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great rest of your day.